with James and Tim, and we're at Monster Mania 37.
Yeah, yep, here in Hunt Valley, Maryland.
In Hunt Valley, Maryland, here at, it's a beautiful venue. It's a great show. You guys do Strange Familiars.
Yep, sure do.
A bi-weekly podcast?
Bi-weekly, yeah.
Bi-weekly?
It's bi-weekly currently, yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. And that's good. You guys focus super on folklore, area folklore in Pennsylvania, and
pretty much everything strange.
Yeah.
Everything from cryptids to strange histories.
A lot of folklore. I'm a big folklore guy. Weird history, just anything that tickles our
UFOs,
fancy.
ghosts, whatever, wherever the thread leads us.
That's awesome. And I was just saying, you guys started with the Toad Road and the Seven Gates. And
Yes.
That's like local high school. Let's go take a case of beer back there and go do our thing. And walk around and creep each other out. So.
Yeah, well, that's my first book I wrote on that.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
25.
So, but I was gonna say I'll sneak away with you here for a moment.
The first book you did was Beyond the Seventh Gate.
Oh, wow.
It talks a lot about the Toad Road and the Raymare's Hollow, things that are very, very well known things from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well,
and there's a lot of misinformation about those things. In particular, Toad Road being the site of a
lunatic asylum.
Yeah, and with the first book that he did, he pretty much was able to do some pretty extensive research, and there was never that wasn't back there. But there's a lot of much stranger things linked to that area: disappearances, bodies found. Possible Bigfoot sightings, creatures
Really?
That go all the way back to the Susquehannock Indians. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Absolutely.
I didn't know about that because there's an access road back there somewhere in that region that leads you. Like it's an old dirt road that will take you from Mount Wolf to Columbia.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's just one of the. There's no maintenance. They don't clear anything. It's
what's really interesting is that the strange things sort of seem to follow that road right into the Helm-Columbia area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bizarre stories from around those areas as well.
Yeah.
That go back really, really far, all the way up until now. There's still weird stuff happening in those areas.
There always is, and with the ability for them to come out, you can just blast it. If you see something weird, tell somebody.
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
throw it on your Facebook.
Yeah,
please.
no, there's tons of interesting things. There's a lot of people who have experiences that they're reluctant to go and talk about it, and there's a lot of times we talk to people who aren't keen on being on the show. They just want to pass on the information. Some of us kind of washing their hands.
Yeah,
I'm going to pass this on to you, and continue to move, which is also cool. We try to get out and actually be boots on the ground and check a lot of stuff out ourselves.
Yeah.
But we're always looking to hear from folks and hear stories. Check out where they might lead to.
Yeah, and I wondered if the one thing about that makes Raymare's Hollow and Seven Gates kind of more facile in the current era is that the stories go back much further, and I feel like sometimes maybe being out on a deserted road in the middle of the night is what prompts that kind of feeling, that kind of dread. And
there's definitely a primal sort of fear with that sort of an environment. As you can living in the times we live in now, people don't just live in the woods in solitude. People like to get together in big groups and huddle in particular areas and get away from nature.
Yeah.
It's safer. But
I slept outside in the mountains, and that was a little weird for me because I have a fear of bears.
Fear of bears?
Yeah, which bears are around an unreasonable amount. We do have a lot of bears up north.
Yeah, sure.
So.
Yeah, but there really is no limit to bizarre things that have gone on in the York County area, outside of the York County area. UFOs. There was tons of a lot of people don't realize that in the late 70s there were a ton of UFO sightings in York County, and a lot of them were in the newspapers pretty regularly. Out in Felton, Fawn Grove, going into the more rural areas, there's a lot of sightings of UFOs and Bigfoot. A lot of times in the same locations. People were seeing Bigfoot. People were seeing UFOs.
It's
interesting.
I didn't realize that we had so many UFO sightings.
There seems to be a correlation between weird, the strange. It all sort of.
Yeah, it kind of comes in and it gets itself
Especially when you start pulling the threads. You start pulling the threads, and it starts to unravel, and you start seeing these weird patterns sort of form in certain areas.
I think I was gonna say I think that's my biggest thing with being into this for so long, being into the quote unquote paranormal, for so long, is that once you do start to see a lot of patterns, and they could lead you one way, they can make you think one way, or they can make you think another, and
I feel like, and I think I could speak for Tim. He's tied up right now, but I think I can speak for Tim. Both of us sort of our opinions and thoughts on the things that we're sort of experiencing firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand sometimes, those things they shift a little bit. How you feel about it, because there's constantly strange, but the strange sort of seems to evolve and mutate in really, really interesting ways that make you sort of question your initial responses to these things.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. It's part of what's so interesting about this stuff to me personally.
Yeah.
Just as much the people who experience it and that are involved, because
there's a whole spectrum. There's a whole spectrum of people that have been in it, and there's a scientific society that doesn't specifically try to debunk. They just want to try to find.
More, I feel like it's less of a debunking and more of an ignoring.
Yeah.
To say that you're educated and versed in those things, and to say you have an interest in this is almost like a taboo. There's a lot of folks, I believe. There's a lot more folks, I believe, today actively in the science community that are closet into this stuff and are applying some really interesting ideas and theories to it behind the scenes.
Well, and a lot of it is developing a scientific method for testing all of this kind of stuff, because that's been the biggest thing since Uri Geller and the big explosion in the 70s was, maybe it is real and maybe we just don't have any way to test it, but we can try to figure out a way to test it. And
no, absolutely. That reminds. I had a really interesting talk with Mark Nesbitt out in Gettysburg. He's the author of all the Ghosts of Gettysburg books.
Okay, yeah.
And we got to sit down and have a chat about the what ifs, and he's been into this stuff arguably way longer than a lot of people that are sort of involved in that sort of ghost economy in Gettysburg. And he has some really interesting, we talked about some really interesting out-of-the-box sort of theories, quantum theories with the supernatural, with paranormal phenomena, in particular ghosts and such. It's just, it's really interesting, and it's nice and refreshing to hear different takes that aren't far-fetched,
I think with when Ray Kurzweil is finally coming into the fore, and all those deeper thinking scientists are coming out, more philosophical based science is coming out and being more present, it does give us the ability to refresh our views on things, and it does reinvigorate that whole what if thought, and it makes it just sometimes you need it,
Absolutely, I totally agree. It just seems like, in particular now, with the way we sort of receive and send information, as a society, I feel like there's so many things kind of moving around, and ideas being shared in a way that's been sped up so much so that you can almost see the landscape change. Right before your eyes if you're paying attention, and that's interesting to me. And it's across all the different sort of genres of paranoid. It's weird, but there is a genre sort of thing with paranormal stuff. You have your ghost communities, you have your folks into the whole cryptid aspect and UFOs, and everyone most people seem to have a particular thing that they lean towards, But I think in general, if you look at all those things, all of those sort of genres within the paranormal community have had people sort of step up and become voices. People that have some credibility. In the cryptid world, we have a lot of people that are popping up and saying, hey, you know what? Hey, science, maybe we should look into this a little bit more, because there's more things leading to there being something than not. Especially if you look at history. If this whole cryptid thing is BS, and it doesn't, and there aren't Bigfoot, right, or whatever this may be that people experience, then this would be the first time in human history where there was only one species of hominid walking around on the planet.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to deal with. That's a hard thought to deal with, because
there always seems to be, at least historically through fossil records, at least 2 to 3 and sometimes more hominids being in the same areas at the same time.
Right.
And so this would be an exception, and I feel like that whole idea of an exception is something that's become too common within these communities.
Right.
It's, where I feel like we should be paying more attention to those things.
Yeah, and I thought, I don't know if you'd watched it yet, Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, I am familiar. It's a great flick.
And so that explores that same idea that, even though it was the turn of the century and the Industrial Revolution was coming, and they had the ability to talk through the beeps, Morse code. They had their and trains and all that stuff. There were still what they called troglodytes. So there were still, there still could have been primitive cultures living in, their own little sect in their own little environment.
Absolutely.
So it was, I was gonna say that was an odd thing to bring up, but it kind of embodies the idea.
It totally ties in, which is really kind of a cool thing. It also ties in pretty good with what's happening out here in Maryland today.
Yeah, we got there's so much. There's so much here. I was gonna say, you got Strange Familiars. There's art, DVDs, book signings, and Wilford Brimley.
Wilford Brimley is in the house.
Yeah. Dean
sure.
Cain is there.
Yeah, initially, I believe. Oh my goodness. I just lost his name. Oh my God, Jim Morrison.
Doug Bradley?
No, Jim Morrison was supposed to be here. Val Kilmer himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
For whatever reason, he was not able to be here.
Yeah,
I believe Wilford Brimley may have been phoned in to take his spot.
Oh.
Which is kind of cool.
That's super.
Ties into The Thing and Cocoon. Two really great sci-fi movies.
I was going to say, and Booger from Nerds is here, and
right.
Before I make the effort,
Right.
I want to get his headshot, because he was in a movie called Route 30, just to keep it local.
Okay.
Did you guys see Route 30 yet?
You know what? I'm not familiar with Route 30.
So I'm sorry, I was dealing with
Tim, have you seen Route 30?
I have not. No.
It's centered around Mr. Ed's Candy Barn out there in Cashtown.
Oh, cool.
And the first one actually had the gentleman who played Booger in it as one of the main characters, and it was one of the most heartfelt, beautiful films that was very locally involved. It was like 3 intertwining stories that involved Gettysburg and Cashtown and like average life out there, and how things are a little slower and all that. It's a beautiful film, and then they took it real weird. But I definitely recommend Route 30 Part 1.
Scotland, PA.
Scotland, PA was one of the best. Yeah, it was an odd one in Scotland.
That takes that place out there.
Oh yeah, and that's got that whole thing too, because it's in the mountains, and it's like there's a water source, and let's all be honest, magic and water something close to each other.
Sure, absolutely.
So.
You have a connection of elements there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I was gonna say it's the metaphysical with the physical, so grounding itself.
Yeah. No, I totally think that's a very beautiful correlation.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out why there's a wrestler, a masked wrestler here, which
there's a few of them. Now it's not the first. We've seen several wrestling masked men.
Huh.
One of which yesterday. You know what? That may be the same guy. Actually, he may be wearing a cape today.
Oh.
He actually had come down yesterday, kind of scoffed and made a remark about, "Is this it?" and like turned around and walked away.
Oh,
which was
that's
cool.
Mean. Yeah, well, that's like when you know somebody, like that's when you yell out a scare at a haunt. Like you just ruined the mood. Why you gotta be like that? Fella?
No, sure. So something pretty cool that happened yesterday is I did run into Rose McGowan. And she shared an encounter with me yesterday, and I'm hoping to get back with her and actually record that.
Oh, that'd be really awesome.
It was kind of a surreal moment.
Yeah,
because I grew up with like the Doom generation and stuff, and to just she literally was going onto the escalator, made eye contact with me, and I was just like, hi, I do this thing, and I have some questions, and she was really, really gracious and very nice, and entertained my questions and with answers, which was really cool.
Well, there you go.
So I'm hoping to at least get that nailed down before we roll out of here this weekend.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say we'll hook up sometime soon and get a full episode because we're not far from each other anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't see why not. I think it's great. I like the idea of synergy within a community, especially of people doing various kinds of podcasts and stuff like that. So I think that'd be great. We'd love to.
Yeah,
love to do a show.
I think within last year I had another podcast. I feel like I was the only person in the desert of no content, and this year we've got Strange Familiars and Are You Morbid isn't far away. There's plenty of stuff that's finally finally taking up the mantle and doing it. So you guys are at strangefamiliars.com, and you're on iTunes and every other podcast platform.
Pretty much, yeah. You can pretty much find us everywhere. Yeah. Well, thanks for.
Share with me.
Don't go too far and rip my shirt off. I have an undershirt, so we're okay. So I'm here with Jellicoe down at Monster Mania Hunt Valley, and I was really excited because you have the little plushies.
Yeah, the mini monsters.
And I thought of that because I pinged on it immediately because you guys just did something with titty bats.
That's right, yeah.
And your art is wonderful, and you have that style that really pops.
Thanks.
Where the vintage Halloween stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, Spencer does all the design work.
Yeah, I grew up pretty much watching nothing but horror movies and cartoons. All that sort of gelled in my brain and kind of informed just the way I drew naturally. So
yeah, and it's like that. Well, the thing of it is like I can't remember what company it was that I'm thinking of, but it was just one of those things. It pops and it looks finished and it looks beautiful, no matter which angle you're looking at it from, and you have that kind of eye for it, and that's wonderful.
Thanks so much.
So no, it's great, and I'm just very excited that. Monster Mania brings in so many like different artists and celebrities and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, we love the Monster Mania shows. We do all three. We do the two, the one in March, the one in August, and then this one. And we just we love horror, so I mean it's a no-brainer for us to come to the horror shows.
So do either of you collect horror on top of this?
Yeah, we collect a lot. Well, movies, and just our house looks like a Halloween museum, basically.
Yeah, we have a lot of old Halloween toys. We collect like action figures and toys of all kinds as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
It seems like it's such an immersive environment here with with the genre of horror. There's so many avenues you can walk down. That is just
totally
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, all right, and what website? What's your website for anybody who didn't make it to the show today?
It's jellycoe.com, so JELLYKOE. And we're on Instagram, Facebook. I try to post new stuff on Instagram all the time if I'm working on new pieces and stuff. So R. Kelly's making some new plush.
Awesome. And do you guys print in-house? Are you a screen printer as well?
I don't screen print, but yeah, we handle most of our printing.
Well, that's awesome. You have highly talented hands.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Awesome.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. I'm doing Man on the Street stuff, and I'm with Gabby Peer. If you don't know her, she's one of our fantastic tattoo artists in New York, and our horror maniac, our local horror maniac. So say hi, Gabby.
Hi.
Hey. I'm enthusiastic. Gabby did all of my knuckles, and I'll have to see you soon. So it happens. Yeah, what brought you down to horror Monster Mania?
I'm here all weekend.
Yeah, are you? Did you just you took the time off work? You just come down here and do your thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do every year.
Yeah. How is it after 3 days or 2 days?
Boring.
Yeah.
You've already seen everything and done everything, but I make new friends. So.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Fun.
You are incredibly personable, so and that's awesome. But cool. Well, hey, I'm excited that you're here. Are you guys staying here too?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I It's my mini vacation away from home.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with that. So, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah.
I'm Jonathan Straighton.
Jonathan Straighton, and you wrote a movie I just heard about, Night of Something Strange, and I was told that it was very, very, very intense. And did you decide to take it as far as you could, or when writing it, or?
Yes, I did, and the reason being is previous films I had done commercial distribution with, and nothing nearly as crazy as this. And the retailers even had me cut some stuff, and I had gotten, as many indie filmmakers, that I got screwed on the deal, so I decided I was going to, distribute something myself, and I decided I'm going to go all out on this one and push it as far as I can. Because you kind of have to now. You have to reinvent stuff. You have to try and be an original, in a day and age where nothing's original. So, and I'm glad I did, because it gets people talking about it. So.
Well, yeah, the friend of mine that recommended it. Like, he introduced me to some of the most graphically violent films, and if you've managed to turn his stomach, that's very impressive.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
And what, did you take the Ukrainian horror? I can't remember what it is. It's a very terrifying film that was actually fake but real to a point where it makes your skin crawl. And the special effects in it, it looks like nothing. It looks like somebody just walked around with a VHS camera behind a murderer. Yeah. And it's so real that it hurts. What angle did you do Night of Something Strange with?
Mine actually, I've got a tentacle coming out of a vagina, so it's not, it's not certainly, real, but I tried to make it look as real as possible. I didn't try. Right. It is a comedy horror, but I didn't try and do I remember when I was first talking to the special effects guy, he was making everything very exaggerated, and I was like, no, it's got to look as if it really exists. You know what I mean? So that was one thing. And a lot of things I think that just made me cringe, especially as a male or something. Yeah. There's a lot of uncomfortable positions with two characters. I don't want to give anything away. In particular, who get in a sticky situation, if you will. That just really, I've noticed the male audience, especially when we were on the festival tour, are just so disgusted. Oh my God, that's so gross. Just anything I can make. Talk about it. So.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely the way to go, because especially at my age now, I'm really into I got into Mother so much because Mother was real, and it was something that I really connected with, because it was an uncomfortable situation I've dealt with before. And as a man, when you see somebody do something so embarrassing on a movie, if you're in theaters, you can't fast forward through it. You just got to bury your head, and it's you just. Yeah, that kind of discomfort is a great way to go with it.
Yeah, I wanted to take situations that were relatable and make them cringeworthy. It's not cringeworthy in the fact that you see the guts of or insides of someone in a certain kill. It's certain stuff when you, and this isn't really a spoiler. You see it on the trailer, not the graphic part, but. When you stop at a roadside gas station and you go in and it is just disgusting, that's one thing for a male. It's easy. We stand up, we can piss all over it. We don't give a shit. But now that I have two daughters and I'm out with them and Daddy, I got to go to the restroom. It's oh my God. So I wanted to put a woman in that situation, and where, women I've talked to is we just would hover over, a dirty seat. And then in the trailer, I have her, she slips and falls and hits, just stuff like that people actually really think about that happen in real life. And I just wanted to take that and exaggerate that.
Well, that sounds great. And you have other titles as well, but nossmovie.com is a great place to pick it up. And, and I'm about to empty my pockets to you. So let's go ahead and do that.
All right, thanks.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. While we have a moment and Amanda's gone, say hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, I'm with Mike Bollinger, a dear friend of mine, and Amanda's wonderful husband, and her Omega.
It's true. I am the Omega. She's the Alpha.
Most certainly. And we're here at Monster Mania, and you're here, and you got the Creature from the Black Lagoon's autograph picture sitting right next to you?
I do. It was very awesome to meet Rico Browning.
Mm-hmm.
Watched him since I was a small child, and very, very interesting to meet him in person.
Yeah. Can you hang on to this mic for a second and talk into it, Mike?
I will talk into it.
Yeah. So my curiosity was, what possessed you to love Creature from the Black Lagoon so much?
I watched, I guess, probably when I was about 9 or 10. That was the beginning of the 50th anniversary of the Universal Monsters, and they just kind of, they were everywhere. So I was like, oh, monsters! I got to check it out. And I remember my cousin and I rented some VHS and spent a weekend watching them. And Creature was just so different, sci-fi and underwater and in the jungle. It was
right.
Different. Everything else was castles and spooky fog-filled graveyards and temples and pyramids and stuff. But a jungle and lagoon, different.
Well, I'd wondered because I remember, what was that, like a couple of seasons ago, they did have one of the forms of Creature from the Black Lagoon on Mystery Science Theater. So that was like my first exposure to it, was the one that was kind of not great.
Yeah, unfortunately, the second sequel, or the first sequel, I should say. First sequel it's okay. The second sequel, they push the envelope, trying to morph the creature into a air breather, land being. Makeup was a little rough, and story wasn't the best, but it's a fun popcorn flick.
Yeah, and they had this kind of like that odd. This is back before these kind of like nuanced writing was in it, but they did have that weird kind of relationship with the sea monster.
Yeah.
That the main actress was dealing with, and that made me think of. Did you see the preview for the Guillermo del Toro that's coming out?
Yes, it looks awesome.
It looks incredibly beautiful, and it looks easier to follow than Pan's Labyrinth.
I do like Pan's Labyrinth, but if something that's a little nod to the creature, I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Plus, you really can't go wrong with Del Toro.
And the exploration of that, like that kind of that thought, like, oh, well, you're in love with a monster. Well, you could easily equate that to actual human life, but she is physically attracted to a fish man.
It's true,
and it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, it's a flip flop from Creature. The Creature was watching Julie Adams swim in the lagoon from afar, and resisting the urge to reach out and touch her. Yeah. I've always found that to be one of the most interesting scenes in all the Universal Monster movies, and I actually told Rico that when I met him. I was like, I've watched this movie time and time again over the years, and that's always been my favorite scene in any of the Universal Monster movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just because I would say that would be like one of the more depthiest written scenes, and like it is very cerebral for being a Universal film. Yeah. Back when it was contract labor and stuff was getting literally pumped out. But the Monster series, and especially that really does add a.
It's just it showed some restraint, on the writer's part, and the acting as well. Considering it was an underwater stunt double essentially, which is what Rico played. I mean, he wasn't credited; he was the underwater creature, the underwater performer. Ben Chapman always gets all the credit for the creature, but it was actually two guys, one on land, which was Ben Chapman. So anytime you see him carrying Julie Adams, that's Ben Chapman. And if he's in the water or underwater, it's Rico Browning.
Oh.
So for him to basically show that kind of a scene of temptation, and pull back from it and not be a monster, I think that shows some depth there.
Well, it's not just the robotic pastiche of a monster being purely negative and purely evil. It did have human characteristics.
Yeah, Monster See Girl, Monster Grab Girl. That didn't happen. I mean, it did later, but
no, but they did really put a gem into it, and that's really awesome. So, all right, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. I know you. I was going to ask you the same question I've been asking everybody else. What kind of horror do you collect? Everything.
Oh, yeah, everything, really. I mean, it's original movie posters, comic books, the archaic DVDs.
They really are going.
So vintage antiques when it comes to DVDs. But yeah, everything. I mean, toys, all kinds of stuff. So it's
very cool.
It's all over the place.
Well, yeah, and I was just saying we're hanging out in Amanda's booth. She just released the Overstreet Guide to Collecting Horror yesterday, here at the convention. It was a great place for it.
Yep,
so,
definitely.
Wonderful. Cool. For some reason, Mr. Piggy is very familiar to me. Why is Mr. Piggy?
I actually just finished an independent film called Mr. Piggy and Family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually came up with the character as an inspiration from Texas Chainsaw, Motel Hell, a lot of my favorite chainsaw-related movies.
Oh, okay. And I do really like your cosplay.
Thank you.
There have been some fantastic cosplays here, and yeah, I wondered, because like I'm a really decent horror fan, but some of them, like people walk by me, I have no clue who they are. And like I just wanted to make sure I wasn't being an idiot when you walked past me, and I asked.
Oh yeah,
Mr.
no,
Piggy.
I mean he's actually a character of my own design. I came up with the inspiration as far again with the horror movies, chainsaw movies, and that was just kind of how that got into this thing. And I was like, I wanted him to look different, so I got the white shirt. Mm-hmm. I got the bow tie, and I pictured him as He's a long line and descendant of a Southern family.
Oh, wow.
And I've actually never had a full name for him. I always called him Mr. Piggy. And then my friend and I were coming up with ideas like what we give our names. And we came up with Peter Iggy. And that's just kind of how, so you take out the Peter.
Right.
And yeah, so he's called, and the long line of butchers. And that's just kind of how it fell through.
Oh, that's very cool. I like that that you fully shot it. How rough of a process was that for you?
It was at first. I actually shot it with no script. The first one, I shot it down in my friend's basement. So the first one looks a little grindhousey kind of thing, but then I was like, I want to do a different one. So we actually went and shot a sequel in the spring. Mm-hmm. And we actually did shoot outdoor stuff, and I actually did have a real chainsaw prop. So,
oh, wow.
And I got other people to be my family members. So we had a full-fledged family, and then I took something from Texas Chainsaw where we had the hippies and hitchhikers kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. I just Pool Side's all about positivity and all that, and you can take a single idea, even if it's small at first, and expand it out, and you've got an independent film, and now you've got a sequel, and you're also in Zomboner too.
Yes, actually, a friend of mine, Steve, they're down there. Mm-hmm. He did this film, Zomboner, and he later came to me not too long ago, and said, "Hey, you want to do Zomboner too?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So, it's coming along, and but I'm anxious to help him finish it. This will be, I'm curious. I've never done anything quite like this, as far as big acting. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm looking forward to it. And if anybody hasn't seen Zomboner, I think it's probably downright hilarious. It's a great film that he put together. I know a good majority of people who was involved with that, and it's just fun to know that he wants to make a sequel, and he wants me to be a part of that.
Well, yeah, that's wonderful. I was actually planning on walking down there next as soon as we finished up here, because I'm just kind of roaming around. And no, I'd wonder because I remember zombie strippers, and that was just basically pornography.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. I mean, that's just as satisfying. But I saw the title Zomboner. I hadn't heard of it before, so I was gonna go dig into it.
It's definitely. I mean, it's definitely the first time I watched it, I didn't know what I was going into, and after that, I loved it, and I was like, dude, this is awesome. And he's been working on number 2, and I'm just looking forward to helping him finish that.
And that's awesome. So, are you from the tri-quad quintuple
I'm
state
actually
area?
from York, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, I travel. I travel to this Monster Mania a lot because it's, of course, the closest one for me. But I love coming to this. This is actually the first one I ever came to.
Oh, okay. I think I do remember you. All of a sudden, I do remember you from my youth. That's very cool, though. I'm glad that I'm super excited to watch the first and the second. Where can my listeners get killed Mr. Piggy or Mr. Piggy 1?
Right now, I'm in the process of just getting things organized because I'm filming an anthology project my friends and I came up with.
Mm-hmm.
We call it The Club.
Oh, okay.
Once I do that, I'm spending an entire, hopefully an entire time. I have actually finished the film. It just needs to be burned and just gotten the covers made because my uncle drew the artwork for the cover. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the cool thing is I just need to sit and focus and get stuff made and finish the sequel, finish the anthology project, and then helps my friend Steve with his project.
Well, there you go.
So I'm just looking forward to just getting this all out there. I mean, there is actually my one good close friend, Matt Burns, is having a film festival in November 4th, and I'm actually screening it for the first time.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Where's the festival at?
Oh, man, I can't remember. It is in Pennsylvania. I can't offhand remember where he said it was, but
I'll definitely research.
Yeah,
into that.
my friends. Yeah, I mean it's. If I remember, then I'll let you know. But it's he's screening Mr. Piggy and Family for the first time, so I'm anxious to get that screened and get this was actually my first film ever to be finished and distributed.
Yeah. Wow. That's got to be a great feeling from a creative standpoint when you finally break that wall and you're like, it's done. You turn around, you look at it, and you're like, oh, wow, it's all done. And it's ready to go out.
Yeah. Oh, I've actually given out a couple copies to the people who helped work on it, people who've helped with the sequel, stuff like that.
That's awesome. So, well, I sincerely appreciate your time, and I definitely look forward to it, and I'll research about that movie festival. That's awesome.
Of course.
So, thank you.
Yep, of course. Thank you.
Well, you should. I don't understand.
Somebody filmed me for a thing, and oh my god, I couldn't even think. I'd never know how to talk. It was embarrassing.
Well, that's the difference with audio. It's not as scary because it's already recording. So you didn't know that.
Yeah,
go ahead and grab that.
I have to hold it.
Yeah, get all up. You're okay. I can't believe that you'd be so nervous, Jenna Manson, as right? Yes. As I'm standing in a booth full of you, as close to nude as humanly possible, or mostly nude and covered up for the sake of right now. But
can't show too much.
No, but you're a beautiful, fascinating human being, and I just heard you say that you are also the photographer in your own work.
Yes.
How do you manage that?
Timer and tripod, and be quick.
Yeah, well, you do a great job for that. I knew there was one famous photographer, he would always manage to hide his shutter release somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And he just had little tricks to do it, but I'm just going to say there's not really any opportunity for you to be holding anything but what you need to hold.
Not much hiding there. I have tried to do it a couple times, and every time this is how it, I know you can't see it right now, but it's held up in my hand like it's.
Wow.
I can't. I can't use those.
Well, yeah. I was
timer, and I just run. I like the 10 seconds. Get it. Pressure. I like the pressure of it.
Well, there you go. You do amazing, fantastic work, and it's.
Oh, thank you.
You're. It's more on the titillating side of eroticism. It's very good, and that was my curious thought. Was I've noticed that the vibe here. This is my first convention that I've ever gone to.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've heard a lot of horror stories otherwise, but the vibe here is very relaxed and not.
It's very laid back at this one.
And does that thought ever cross your mind where you're here, you are the model, there is every possibility of weirdos like me walking by, and.
Well, I'm a weirdo, so that's okay. I welcome weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big weirdo. I just show mine outwardly in my photos,
and you do, as you say, you do a great job
Thank
of it.
you.
And, yeah. So are you from the area, or?
Virginia Beach.
Oh, well, that's not too far.
That seems not too far.
That seems like one of the greater places in the world to live because there's so much to do. And
it's not bad.
A lot of my friends moved down there. My uncle lives down there, so.
Yeah. I'm ready to move someplace quieter, though.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Move to Hatteras.
Hatteras?
So, just go Outer Banks and stay out. Just stay off mainland.
Maybe. Well, yeah, quiet.
So.
Yeah, but it seems expensive. I don't know. I need cheaper.
Yeah. But I really appreciate the time, and your work is it's so differing. Obviously, you have the cube from Hellraiser.
Yep.
In a couple, your props are wonderful. The goat devil thing. I'm currently on a kick with Primordial Man and what he saw evil as. So I have
that's interesting.
That's my costume this year. Is,
nice. Very different.
White fur pants, nothing else, and then a huge sort of devil mask, giant horns that I made.
Oh, nice.
And I I watched Altered States, and I kind of got stuck on that whole reconnecting with original us. So
yeah, well, I like that. A little more creative, thinking outside the box.
So for those of us for those who haven't managed to come to the convention this weekend, where can they pick up your portraits and the stuff?
Well, for right now, I'm traveling and I sell them there, but when I'm off, which is December and January-ish time frame, you can always go on my Instagram, which is Jenna_Manson, or my Facebook, which is Images by Jenna Manson, and I have links to my sites there. So
cool.
Or you can message me if you don't see it, which a lot of people fail to see it. It's called Message Me. I will get back to you and show you where to go.
There you go.
So that's the easiest way to get me. Message me or see me at a show.
Yeah. And how have you managed to stay so just cute?
Oh, that's very sweet. I don't know, because I'm very tired most days, so I feel like I look like a zombie walking around because I travel so much.
No, you have a very cute face. I've been stuck on that lately. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate
You're welcome.
it.
Thank you for asking. And
what am I doing?
Well, you're Freddie, and you're going to tell me all about your board game, Mixtape Massacre.
Sweet. So Mixtape Massacre is a kind of an homage to 1980s slasher films. We wanted to create a game that, brought back a lot of nostalgia, and that, we wanted a game where you actually got to play as the killer. So what you do in the game is you pick your killer, and there's 1 of 10, and they're all kinds of archetypes. You have your killer clowns, you have your slashers, you have your chainsaw killers, things like that. And what you do is you make your way through the fictional town of Tall Oaks, and as you get to different locations, you're dispatching victims and trying to collect as many kills as possible. And the 2 ways to win the game are you either get to a certain amount of kills that you win, or you take everyone else out of the game.
Mm-hmm. So I was going to say, it's kind of like the mechanics of it are sort of risk-based, where you're trying to take the most territories, but by territories you mean kills in this game.
Exactly. Yeah, and the cool thing is as you make it to the different locations and you start making different kills, what happens is basically the board will be restocked until someone has gotten enough kills to hit their count, and the count is based upon how many people are playing. So if you have 6 people playing, you're probably going for 10 kills. If you have 2 people playing, you're probably going for 12 or 15.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool, and it is a 2 to 6 person game, like a party game, or
exactly. Yeah, it's totally party game, 2 to 6 players, and usually your games, based upon how many people are playing, will run you about 30 minutes to an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. On top of that, just to make the party keep going, we actually have a Spotify playlist that's full of 80s songs, so you can soundtrack your game night while you're playing.
Well, it seems absolutely perfect for being here at Monster Mania, because the 80s and horror just go together so well. And did you design this all yourself?
So I came up with the concept in about December of 2014, and then my company and / team, my business partner Matt, actually did a lot of the illustration. He did all the illustrations, and he did all the art design. Mary Joy and I, we did a lot of the design and game testing and development. Mm-hmm. So it's completely done in-house by our team.
Oh, that's awesome. And what possessed you to get into game design? To have and there are so many board games out there. What made you want to do that, and what sets this apart from all the others?
So what we found was with horror games, you're usually looking at Cthulhu, or you're usually looking at zombie games. We wanted to create one that was slasher based. At the time when we made it, there wasn't slasher focused games or you playing as the killer per se. So we wanted to make something that was really unique. We also wanted to make a game that was easy to jump into. Mm. So whereas it takes 45 minutes to an hour, or you have to watch a YouTube video to learn how to play some of the games that are out there, we wanted to make something that our friends could come over, sit down, and in 15 minutes we'd have them into it, and we'd be playing all night.
Oh, cool.
So that's why we created this.
Well, that's always been my issue with breaking out of my board game routine, is that even with myself, I find stuff so complex without walkthroughs and all that. That's cool that you've made it simple, so that your friends all come over. You don't have to sit there and spend 45 minutes giving them lore and 55 minutes explaining game mechanics. That's awesome, and you waste the whole night figuring out how to play it, and then they finally come back next time and they don't want to play it anyway. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, we definitely just wanted to make something that, one, we would enjoy ourselves, but two, friends who didn't really want to get into gaming or didn't enjoy certain board games because it was just too complex to get into, something they could slip right into, get really addicted to, and want to play a lot of games of.
That's awesome. And is is it kind of like Clue where everything is, there's always going to be a different setup, or like everything's randomized?
So you can pick the space you start on. There's 6 stations to start on, and basically as the game goes, you'll get moved back to different spaces if you fault or do something wrong during the game. But yeah, the nice thing about the game is there's no story to it per se.
Right.
So the game can always be random. You're always drawing cards at random basis, and with the expansion we have coming out for the game, we'll be adding even more cards and more mechanics to it that make it even more random.
Oh, awesome. So for those that can't make it to Monster Mania this year, where can they pick up Mixtape Massacre?
You can pick up Mixtape Massacre at mixtapemassacre.com. And we currently have the game on sale on there, and you can also pre-order the new expansion that's coming out in the spring, the Black.
Terrifyingly serious. So, here, could you slide over? Yeah. If I can grab the two of you together, and you can share this mic, and be mindful, it's a super directional mic, so point it at your mouth, etc. Cool. So I'm with Ben and.
My name is Benjamin Baker.
My name is Ryan Klingmeyer.
Okay, and you guys wrote and one of you wrote and directed How the West Was Dead?
I wrote and directed How the West Was Dead. Ryan starred in it.
Oh, wow. So
you associate producer, and he built the sets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's you got. I was gonna say, so this is like a definite indie start to finish DIY project, or?
Yeah, self-funded and self-made.
Oh, that's awesome. And what is How the West Was Dead about?
Well, it is about a Confederate soldier who dies on the battlefield in the Civil War, the Battle of Shiloh, and then he is resurrected by a mysterious evil force.
Ooh.
And there's a demon that they exorcise a demon from. They bring a demon from hell and put her into a girl. It's kind of hard to explain.
I gotcha.
But
no, it's cool.
They use this demon against the dark force to try to win back their mortality.
Oh.
So they are trapped as immortals, and they don't want to be.
Oh.
So.
I was going to say that.
It's a very dark story that came to me in a dream, a nightmare, but it's really about the psyche of a country after a war and what people feel after a war is over. Because after the Civil War, obviously someone won.
Right.
But millions of people did not win at the end of a war. No one really wins.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very deep subject to really explore with that.
It's kind of more of an drama art film with a horror aspect. There's like horror type characters, demons, that kind of thing.
Oh.
But it's a very personal story about a human being who's not human anymore.
Well, I was gonna say, we really don't get that in film where most war films and all that, they do become deeply personal about whatever, whoever the main subject is, but having that concept of like what's going on at home, and it's all like wars beyond the Civil War, like they didn't happen here.
Yeah.
And to have something that did happen here, and you have to like, really dig into that thought, like that's beautiful.
No, thanks. Yeah, so. And loving horror movies and everything, I think in this country, what is the most horrible thing that's happened here? And obviously that would be the Civil War. It's the most horrifying thing ever. And, once you start to learn more and more about it, as I did, I got more interested because I wasn't really into it that much. Had a lot of friends that were. But now, it's a huge part of my life, obviously.
Well, I was going to say, if you want to pass the mic, that'd be great. I feel like your interest in American history and the Civil War era would be definitely right on. So.
Well, my grandfather was in World War II, and I grew up kind of watching like war movies and kind of getting a perspective of it. I kind of always wanted to film one. And my cousins were really into the Civil War reenactment growing up, so I didn't do it myself really, but I was always kind of been into it. So when Ben offered the idea, this story idea to me, I was just like, this is great, and I went in 150%.
There you go. Yeah. And when had you been acting before, or was this just something that popped up and you thought, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it as best as I can?
Well, I've been working with Ben for a number of years. I've been acting since I think officially, I guess it was like 2009 to 2008, and then of course I just kind of honing my skills ever since. I built all the sets for this movie, not solely. I mean, I had a team, but I helped design all of everything and all for the vision of Ben Baker. And it was neat because I'm an antiquer at heart.
Yeah.
I love antiques, so it was kind of easy to find this period. But doing period films in general is great. But between that and the wardrobe was amazing. So.
That's cool. Did you? I was gonna say, was the wardrobe all handmade, or was it like scoured?
It's authentic wardrobe from Gettysburg area.
Wow.
There's a company, a friend of mine, Ed Mantell, and his associate Jody Nolan.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the name of the company right now, but they're out of Gettysburg. So a lot of things you see, on the documentary channels or National Geographic, that kind of stuff. Same authentic costumes.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you went the extra mile with it. And where can the folks who didn't get the chance to come to the convention pick up How the West Was Dead?
HowTheWestWasDead.com. I'll send you right to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your time so much. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, you're finally here. Good. How are you? Here, I'm gonna hand you that one. And I'm with Matt, correct?
Steve.
Steve. Okay. Sorry, Justin told me your name. Hour and 45 minutes ago.
If Justin told me told you my name, then he probably did say Matt. So it makes sense.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So Mr. Piggy told me all about you, and that he's going to be in Zomboner 2. But I want to talk about Zomboner 1.
Sure.
What? So I walked past it. I saw the title, and I was like, "Is this like one of those kind of like lots of exposed genitals kind of films, or is it a comedy zombie movie, or?"
Well, it's a comedy zombie movie.
Okay.
It was really I made it to make fun of the male sex drive. How like you'll be so desperate to get laid that you would even come back from the dead to finish it off.
Yeah.
And it was based on my experience of seeing guys in the bar and acting and like just seeing guys in general, and I just wanted to kind of make a mockery of all of that.
Yeah. Is that like? Well, where does that derive from? Because my curiosity is like, as a well-adjusted 32-year-old man, like I can 100% compliment a woman and not look at her with the wolf's eyes.
Yeah,
and it's okay. Like,
right.
There is a way to have a balanced a balanced interaction with people. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's just comes from like being.
It's just from observation.
Yeah,
and it seems like there's more of that than chivalrous men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It seems like there is sort of like a little bit more of that. And, that's not 100% true, but...
Yeah.
But you see it a lot.
Yeah, well, it does, like... It gets to that point where there's so much online and there's so much digitally that you're like, there's no way dudes could possibly act like this. And you're like, no, they do, and we need to make fun of them for it because they're animals.
That's exactly right. And that's what I was going with.
Yeah, they're the ones that can't climb the trees to get the high fruit.
Right.
They can just beat their chest about it.
And the whole joke about it was that he comes back from the dead to do it, but then still can't.
Oh, wow.
Like, he still can't. His advances still don't work.
Wow.
Which his advances are usually just yelling... Instead of brains, he just yells various vulgar parts of the female anatomy out and tries to hump everything that he sees. So,
wow,
including mailboxes and other inanimate objects.
That's wonderful. I was getting, like you have me enthralled because I'm not scared of that at all. Like I could see that terrifying some people, and like that concept just doesn't bother me. It's cool. It's really cool that you would dig into that.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
And it's also cool that I just talked to the gents from How the West Was Dead. Otherwise, and you did that as well.
Yes. Yep. I was an actor in that and helped out during the production of it. It was awesome. It was a great experience.
And what got you into making films? You're out of the Baltimore area as well?
Originally, I'm from Baltimore, but I've lived in York Pennsylvania since 1998. So
that's where I'm from.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Poolside Podcast York because I live by the fairgrounds. It's
holy cow, that's awesome.
So
yeah, very cool. Yeah, I live right in East York.
Oh, well, we have this fantastic little vortex of stuff. Because it doesn't take but 2.5 hours to get Jersey, Philly,
right,
Baltimore.
No,
DC.
it's a good hub.
And we do have all these opportunities. So
York City itself, man, if it cleaned itself up a bit, it could be a great art city.
Hey, we're getting there.
And amazing. Yeah,
we're
they're working on it. I saw that. They're working on it. But.
So I was go downtown and check the progress. When was the last time you were down?
Oh, I've been downtown. I usually go downtown at least a couple times every month. But
we're getting there. It's easier to get involved, and it's really fun. And that's usually what the podcast is focused on. And I'm at a horror convention. I don't want to talk about it. So what did you start young making movies with VHS or what?
No, actually, when did I go to? 2009. I went to the New York Film Academy.
Oh, really?
And did the 8-week course there. Mm-hmm. And because I don't know, I always had thought about making movies, but I never had done any. So I was like, well, let me see what I can do to try to figure out how to get this started, and learned a lot from it. And then just came back and started making zombie boner movies.
Well, there you go.
From there, so I'm sure that schooling. I'm sure they're incredibly proud of that.
Oh yeah, so. No, you're definitely going to get a brick in their walk of remembrance. But yeah, that's really cool that you did that, and I always felt like, I was the same way. I wanted to make movies. I want to dig into it and try it out, but I'm terrified of the technical aspects and the amount of work that it really does take. Like, you think your friends are going to be great and get it on the first take, but you got edits and cuts and all kinds of technical data you need to know. Mm-hmm. And I'm not there really.
No, it is a challenge. It's tough to get everything together, especially like for the first Zomboner movie. I made it for $200.
Wow.
Casted all my friends, and
that's not bad.
And and it wasn't bad at all. And we rocked it out because everybody was just as passionate as I am. And I'm working on the sequel for it. So like the first Zomboner we shot over the course of a year. Mm-hmm. The sequel we've been shooting over the course of like 3 years. And it's because I try to be more ambitious. And I guess the point is, don't ever try to be ambitious.
Yeah.
No, it's just no. You should, but it's just once you branch out and try to do different things and try to make it a bigger production and try to. That's where it gets challenging.
It's like, if you know your limits, you know them, and you can push them. But if you push them too far, you're going to be living in a house full of like whatever thing you're really into. Mm-hmm. Suddenly you're hoarding yourself in it because you thought you could go further with it.
It's tough. It's very difficult to try to make something a feature length, because the first Zomboner was only 50 minutes long. Okay. So it wasn't quite a short. It wasn't quite a feature. It was in that weird in between. Yeah. Zomboner 2 was strictly from the get-go set out to be a feature.
Right.
And it made me almost never want to make another movie again.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to, but
I think you should, because it's especially now with the availability of everything. Like, there's everything possible that we can do, and sometimes you gotta like say, look, you can get drunk with your friends and tell them you're gonna do cool things all the time. Or you can just fucking do them.
Right.
And that's what I love about the spirit of like all these independent films and stuff that are being featured here today or have booths, is that like, sometimes it may not be a shining pearl, but you really do have to appreciate the fact that somebody finally pulled the trigger that you keep saying you're going to, but you don't.
It's not easy to make a movie in any capacity. It really isn't. I mean, I appreciate, any kind of independent art that's out there. I appreciate it because, like you said, it's not easy to do, and it shows a passion for something, and you can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
So. Whether it's a masterpiece of cinema, like How the West Was Dead, which is a brilliant, beautifully shot film, or if it's a zombie dick movie like what I make. So
yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, either way, I'm kind of cool with How the West Was Dead. Like, I feel like I'd be really enthralled with it.
Yes,
and Zomboner, people keep telling me to see it.
No, it developed a little bit of a cult following, which I was happy with, because I mean, I just wanted to make a cool, funny thing.
Yeah.
So I really had nothing else. Like, I just wanted people to think it was cool and enjoy it, and if they didn't, that was fine too. I just did it for me, and if people dug it, that was great too. And so far, it's been pretty positive for the most part. So
that's awesome. So I don't mean to keep looking around, but there's so much great footwear walking by.
No, it's all right.
I have a thing with people and their shoes, and this is a great place to go to look at people's shoes.
Oh,
it's not even a thing. It's just fascinating. So
that's cool. It's a lot of sights to see, man.
No, it really is. Like, I have terrible anxiety in crowds, and problems with
Me too.
instigating
I'm actually very
conversation.
bad at interviews. This is probably the first interview where I've been like, okay, I think I don't sound completely idiotic right now.
Well,
so
I was gonna say I'm not Mark Maron or anything. I'm just a dude, so you're doing good.
No, thanks.
But
I mean,
yeah, like I walked in and suddenly my anxiety exploded, and then it finally waned. And man, this place is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really.
Oh, is this your first convention?
It is.
Oh,
It's
really?
My first
Okay.
Convention ever. No comic book conventions. Nothing.
So for the most part, like things like this, like horror convention stuff, especially this one, I've met countless number of friends here just from the family vibe that these things produce.
Oh, yeah.
Like how the West was dead. I've seen these guys way back at conventions since like 2007 or something like that.
Yeah.
Doing convention with these guys, like not vending, but just attending them as a
collector
as a
or
fan.
horror fan, or?
Yeah. And then who knew that years later I'd be working with them and collaborating with them and becoming great friends with them. I've had countless numbers of friendships built here, so conventions are a great scene.
I think that's great, and it adds a beautiful piece of reality to it, because you're meeting real people, like all the people that I've talked to today. I met them. It was really nice talking to them, and those relationships can form further the more that you show up. Yeah, and that's a really cool thing, because over time they do become long-lasting, well-developed friendships, and we don't get that. Like, you had somebody on Facebook, you don't know.
No.
Most 98 out of 99 times, you know them that well. You don't follow up, So it's really cool.
And there's some people that I only see at convention time that I still consider friends. When we see them, then it's hey, let's just like you pick back up, and it's like you never like had any time apart. But the only time you'll see him is at something like this.
Yeah, I have to chase down some friends of my wife and I. We met them at Muddy Roots Music Festival in Tennessee, and they live an hour away from us in Reading. And I haven't seen them. The only time I see them is if I go to Muddy Roots, and I haven't been back in a while. But they run a sideshow and all kinds of fun stuff, and I need to get off my lazy ass and go see them. But
Gotcha.
I will one of these days. But yeah, you have those those friendships that they don't have to be constantly maintained. You don't have to be in each other's circle all the time. But you see them and you're so happy to see them, you can't stand it.
Right. Exactly.
So,
that's exactly right.
But that's awesome. And where's the best place for anyone that can't make it to the con to get their copy of Zomboner?
You can't.
Really?
What's on the table is what I have left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. However, once the second one's done, I'm planning on starting something up where I can actually market it more. And I'm a terrible promoter. Along with being a terrible interview, I'm a terrible promoter. And like I said, man, I guess I just do it and just put it out there, and I'm just whatever about it. But
I know I totally get that, and it's like I had to dig into it, and I felt like such a teenage girl when I did it, because I had to dig into how social media works. I had to develop that whole thing, because I was in the tail end of people that should have picked up on that, and it's like. It feels weird to go back and do that, but doing this, it's super fun, and it's a good way to get it out. So, I'll be in touch. And you're in New York, so, I mean...
Absolutely, man. That's cool.
We'll hook up again, and
For sure.
we can talk about Zomboner, too. We can just have a nice, full interview.
Yeah, man. Maybe get some screenings up in New York. Maybe do the Valencia, or do the Strand?
No. Well, the Strand, or the Strand is now the Appel Center for the Arts.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They changed it.
And there's also Small Star, and there's... I think that's it.
Midtown in Harrisburg.
Yeah, there's all kinds.
Midtown's is good.
We can everything can be done. It just takes a little time. That's all.
Right. That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
I'm bummed for anybody who can't just you're gonna have to track down a copy of Zomboner.
I mean, Facebook. I do have a thing called B Movie Productions, and Steve Boliek. If you look at me on Facebook, if you're interested in the movie, curious about it, I might be able to get a copy out to you. So just look me up on there.
There you go.
And yeah, that'd be about it.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Cool.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I was going to say, I feel like I was chasing you down all afternoon.